Welcome to the AdSense Flippers podcast. Are you sick and tired of gurus who have plenty of ideas but are short on substance? Worried that ebook you bought for $17.95 won't bring you the personal and financial freedom you long for? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others in their pursuit of niche profits without the bullshit. Straight from your hosts, Justin and Joe of AdSense Flippers.
Welcome to episode 13 of the AdSense Flippers podcast. I'm your host, Justin Cook, and I've got with me my business partner extraordinaire, Joe Magnotti. What's going on, buddy?
How you doing, everybody?
We've got a great episode lined up for you. This week, we're getting into cashing in through expanding purchase sites. So if you buy a site, what can you do to expand it to flip that site and make a lot more money, or hold on to it and keep some of that residual income? But first, we're going to go over the updates, news, and information for the week. First thing we need to talk about is our iTunes feed, man. Sorry to everyone out there. We had a little bit of a mistake. The iTunes feed got completely screwed up and the episode last week didn't get out for a couple of days. So just wanted to say sorry for that. And we've got that fixed now. We're up and running and it is back on track.
Yeah, and thank you for all the comments and suggestions, letting us know if you do see something like that. Help us get it corrected.
This week, actually, the last week or so, has been a lot more plugging away than normal. We don't have a lot of new stuff going on, man.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on, but it's kind of the boring, everyday stuff. Not something I'd like to go over on the podcast. It's more just dreary work.
Just chugging it out, man. And honestly, that's just the way that this works, right? There's going to be times where you just have to do the crap to make some money, right?
Right. And we did make some money.
Yeah, we did make a little bit of money. Unfortunately, we're not doing any site selling right now. It's kind of on a hiatus. We just finished up another Flippa auction. It went pretty close down to the wire, and we just sold the Buy It Now. So we're kind of in rebuilding mode right now. We'll be coming out with our income report here soon for February, but we're rebuilding right now to get our sites back up to where they need to be, and we can have some new sites coming out of the hopper.
Yeah, I hope to have some sites up on the Buy Our Sites page this month, probably over the next couple of weeks.
Joe, I read a great article from Tom at leavingworkbehind.com. He wrote really an article that just kind of went viral. It's the top 100 blogs, and it's by category. So he talks about niche sites, he talks about affiliate offers, all different types of things, and it's this great resource. Now, it's a bit of information overload, but there's quite a bit of stuff in there that I think is really useful. We made it on the list. I think we're 60-something, so really excited to be on there. And then he also came up with a follow-up post where he said his 10 favorite, the ones he really looks at, and he mentioned people like, Smart Passive Income, Pat Flynn. He mentioned Derek Halpern, socialtriggers.com, and AdSense Flippers, dude. So I was pretty stoked. I mean, the other people on that list I really look up to and respect, so to be in that category, I'm fired up.
Yeah, it's an honor to be mentioned with any of those people in the same breath, on the same page, or even in the top 10.
Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, definitely check out leavingworkbehind.com, and I'll leave some links to those in the show notes for you to take a look at.
So, Justin, we lost an outsourcing customer. How did that happen?
I don't know, buddy. We had this outsourcing client for about 2 years, and things had gone really well. Unfortunately, kind of wasn't working out more recently. Like, we just weren't getting it done. I think it was a lead generation type thing, and the list wasn't so great. Their numbers had really dropped off. And it just wasn't, I didn't see there was a lot of value there for the client anymore.
Yeah, we could blame it on the list, but honestly, I think it was the fact that we're not a telemarketing company, and that's not our expertise. We know how to do it. We did some voice campaigns on our outsourcing company, but we learned that we want to stay away from those kinds of projects in the future. And we had this one going on, successful project. It was a very minor project, but it was successful. It seems to have run its course, and I wish the customer the best of luck.
Well, for most internet marketing people, we really recommend Virtual Staff Finder. It's kind of a great in-between between Odesk and a true outsourcing company, right? So that's a really good way to get a new virtual assistant to be working with you. And we've had a couple of people recently ask us questions about that and go through the process. We've tested it ourselves. We've hired a person through that route, and it was really good for us. She's actually on our TriBPO staff full time now. But we are looking for another potential outsourcing agreement that's similar. So if any of you are out there and you're not in internet marketing, but you have a job, you work at a company, maybe a mid-sized company that's looking to get some outsourcing work done, definitely give us a call, shoot us an email, let us know what's going on, and maybe we can work something out. We'd like to replace that client.
Yeah, again, like Justin said, I would say this usually fits best when you need to outsource at least 3-4 people. So if you're just looking for that virtual assistant type job, there are much better ways to get that staff.
All right, man. Well, that's it for the news and updates. Let's get right into the heart of this week's episode.
the AdSense Flippers Podcast.
So the heart of this week's episode is all about profiting through expansion of niche sites. We have an interview today with Chris Guthrie, who was recently on Smart Passive Income Podcast, session number 32. And we'll put that in the show notes, a link there. But he did an amazing interview about specifically how to find sites to buy that you can flip, how to make more money out of those sites. And we'd like to kind of follow up on that and see what we can do to expand those sites. So we're really excited to have Chris Guthrie on the program. He's got some fantastic information, and I'll let him introduce himself now. What's up, Chris?
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, buddy. Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just started with Amazon's really what kind of got me making money while I was still working my full-time day job, get home from work, put some hours in building some sites out, build my Amazon income up to enough to where I could, well, I got fired from my job, but it was enough to pay my bills after I got fired. And then just trying to do what everyone else wants to do, scale their business up. So that's kind of why I started getting into buying sites that way.
Chris, you know, it's interesting that you started with Amazon and not with AdSense. I mean, most new people to making money online start with AdSense. Why did you start with Amazon?
So actually I did start with AdSense. Going back a little bit, I built some sites in college. And by the end of college, the top earning sites were paying my rent, but I was splitting the rent with 5 other guys or so. So it was not like a ton of money. It was like the max I was making was $500 a month. And that was with a video game forum site, and it was getting like 500,000 page views a month. And so I just kind of switched to Amazon once I was just looking for more and more ways to try and make money with sites, because I was so blinded by just focusing on something that I was interested in or that I thought might be kind of fun to talk about, that case being a video game forum, that I wasn't really focusing on something that I could sell and really having a monetization plan. So that's why I switched to Amazon and then seemed to do pretty well with it.
Well, the reason, I can tell you, Chris, the reason we're having you on here to talk about expanding niche sites is we're not experts in that area. We have some ideas and some strategies that we want to test out ourselves, but it's not something we've had a lot of success with yet. We actually haven't even done it yet. So we are looking to do that in the future. And I know that our listeners, readers, are guys who buy sites. They buy sites from us and others, and they'd like some strategies to make more money or to cut down the time it takes to break even. I know that you had a site recently where you purchased that was in the $100 to $200 a month range, and inside of 7 months, you got that up to over $600, almost $700 a month. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that site, Chris. I think that's really interesting, and we'd like to kind of mention that throughout the podcast.
Yeah, so that site was copycatcrafts.com. Yeah, that site was making, $100 to $200 a month, but when I bought it and when I was thinking about buying it, I could tell that it was getting a lot of traffic, over 200,000 page views a month, but that traffic just wasn't really that well monetized. Mm-hmm. So that's like one of the things I look for when I'm buying sites is how they monetize, and then just knowing what I know now about how to build and better improve sites, what I can do to it.
One of the first questions we were wondering is you seem to kind of shifted gears into buying and selling sites. I know that you said you're looking to purchase about $100,000 worth of sites, and you got about half of that last year. Why did you decide to get into buying and selling sites instead of just building out the Amazon sites? Why is this a focus for you now?
The biggest thing for me is that scaling has been, I know you guys have done really well with your scaling your AdSense sites up to be able to sell them to your listeners and just anyone else looking for a good quality AdSense site. But I don't know what it is. It's just for me, I wanted to I'm getting tired of just starting from scratch. I mean, I still build some sites from scratch, but it's kind of like, I could buy a site for $10,000 that's already making, several hundred on up to $1,000 a month or so.
Yeah.
And try and take that to a $100,000 site as opposed to starting with a small site and trying to take it up to a $10,000 site.
We have a pretty big failure rate too, so we have to make a bunch of sites to kind of pull out the winners. So you're kind of skipping that process by buying sites that are already earning, and you think it's kind of a higher level game when you can buy sites that are already earning and then expand those out?
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing too is I just kind of got tired of just doing the same thing, so this was kind of a different thing. Like I'd never start a blog about crafting, but because the site was already up making money and I had someone that I could just pay to manage to run it, sure, I'll buy it.
I think that's something that advanced users will definitely get into, buying more revenue-generating sites that get bigger and bigger as they go along and they become more sophisticated. So it's interesting that you've gone down that path, because I could definitely see our listeners going down that path, hopefully, if they're successful in buying and selling smaller sites.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we'll probably talk about this more too, but certainly finding sites is difficult, and I'm always contacting people just through, I'm doing niche research for niches that I might build a site in, but then while I'm doing that, I'm contacting people to see if they're just interested in selling anyways. Then it's, I can see a site that was started in 2008 or 2009, and, I have that several year advantage already over anyone else that might try and start a site, including myself.
Yeah,
so that's kind of the other part.
Right. How do you find the sites?
More of what I'm doing now, although not as much as in February. I was busy with other projects, but just finding sites through researching different types of niches that I'm interested in going into. So it's kind of a matter of finding older style sites, especially if they're built in the early 2000s or so, going after those types of sites because they're so stable. In Google's eyes, I mean, if you can get a site that's been up and running and generating money for several years, then it can be pretty solid.
Do you think it's okay to get into an industry that you don't know that well? Like, for example, I know nothing about motorcycle parts. Would it be good for me to buy a site that I think has monetary potential, but that I don't know? Or would you avoid that, especially if you're starting out? Like, what kind of strategy there would you take for industries?
That one's tough because I have some other friends that work in downtown Seattle, and they focus on just one specific area. And so their whole mindset is that they'll be the best in that one area, and then if their company gets acquired, then they can sell at a much higher multiple because any business acquiring them can see, okay, they own this chunk of the space.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone were to come to me, say a few years from now, and hopefully I've purchased $1 million worth of sites or something, I might have them all kind of all over the board, and and might not be as good to sell. So
not tightly focused. Yeah. So with that in mind, I think that if you can do it based on something that you know, that's helpful because then if someone, say the previous owner doesn't want to be involved anymore after they've sold, then you can take over. But in the sites that I've bought that haven't been in focus, blogs specifically, the ones that need continuous updates, those ones I've always had arrangements where the original owner or the original content writer can just keep writing after I purchased it. So in those situations, it's not as big of a deal to just buy them even if they aren't really your bread and butter. Chris, I heard recently a great, what I thought was an interesting strategy to get a site owner to sell. A lot of times it's like it's their baby or maybe they've forgotten about it, but it runs the gamut. But I was listening to someone talking about a great way to do it is to contact the site owner first and say you're looking to advertise on the site, and then you can start to get some traffic and some statistics on what's going on there. How do you approach someone that you've never approached before? Is it kind of a shotgun approach, find a bunch of sites and reach out to them?
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's pretty much what I do. The other thing, too, is if I'm looking for just starting a niche there instead, I'll contact, the .com, .net, and .org owner of the domain name I'm interested in. And then, see which ones reply back. And then when the .com wants $50,000, the .net's 20, and then the .org's 1,000, I'm like, okay, $1,000 it is. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of the shotgun approach. But I have a pretty similar formula I use each time. It's pretty much just hello, and I always get their name from the Whois records if I can, or look for their name on the site, so that it doesn't feel like a format, even though it kind of is.
Yeah.
And then I just say, I'm interested in this topic, and I'm interested in just taking over a site as opposed to starting one from scratch.
So what do you think is the, after you have agreed to do the deal, what do you think is the safest way to transfer payment for both the buyer and the seller?
I pretty much always use escrow. I've done a few transactions with PayPal, but even just the domain name I bought a few months ago, the guy wanted to do escrow for $300. So escrow is pretty much what I use. And then I also have like a templated contract that I use for selling, or for buying rather, that I have the seller sign as well. And I haven't had to run into this yet, although there was a deal I was trying to work. It was a natural health type website that was making about $3,000 a month from AdSense.
Yeah.
And they were based in India, and I wasn't going to worry about that until it came up, but I was not sure about how a contract might work across country lines because you can't necessarily
hold them accountable. South. Yeah, that makes it difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's too cost prohibitive to go over to India and try and do something. So most of the time it's people from the states that I'm buying sites from. And that's always something to keep in mind, too, is if you're buying a site from someone in another country. And I've seen that on the higher end, too, because I keep in touch with a broker that helps sell my site, because every now and then I have people with bigger sites that would be selling for, high 6 figures or 7 figures, and I let them know. I send them on to the broker. But he says that almost kills the deal sometimes with sites in Romania or something. And even though it's making, maybe $20,000 a month from AdSense, U.S. buyers and companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even on like a smaller individual level, I still don't do it. I haven't done yet any sites outside the U.S.
We have a corporation in both the U.S. and the Philippines, and so anytime we're doing business with Americans, we have them do business with our U.S. corporation. It's a little safer for them. They feel a little more comfortable with that. So I definitely understand when international issues get involved, it can be a little more difficult or a little more sketchy for people. So let me ask you, we have the problem where some of the sites we create are just donkeys. They just don't make us any money. But we know that going in. We know that, we have a fair shot at some are going to be, make us a bunch of money, some are going to be in the mid-range, and some are just losers or busts. It's the same thing with buying sites, right? I mean, I don't know if you've done enough to where you have an idea on what percentage are going to be winners or losers, but what are the chances you think that something will be able to be expanded and make a good amount of money for you? Do you know?
Well, I think it's tough to say definitively what the chances are. 70% of the sites I buy fail or something like that. I mean, or work rather. If I had a 70% fail rate, that would be bad. But yeah, so I don't have a specific number, but I think, so part of the reason why I like it is that when you're looking at a site, especially when they're not actually advertising it for sale, you can see all of what they've done to it, looking through the backlinks, seeing how they built their traffic in that way, and then seeing what they rank for using like SEMrush or other tools like that. And then you can use WhoRush too to see other sites that they might own. So you kind of get a pretty good picture of how the site's making its money, and even before you even see the financials. But yeah, I mean, I've had sites that I buy and that didn't work out. Like one that I bought that was earning money from AdSense since 2007. 9 days after I changed the AdSense over, the site was banned by AdSense apparently.
Ouch!
Yeah, it had, and I think the reason why is because in my account, that AdSense account, it was a new site and it was making, about $20 to $30 a day, not a lot of money, but decent enough for a site that doesn't need updating and hadn't been updated since 2007. But the problem was there was a misleading message above the Google AdSense link unit, the 160 by 90 pixel ones, that was saying it was like some type of, it wasn't saying it was an advertisement. So it was misleading text above that. So I think that's why I got banned, but, so I don't know, that stuff can happen, but.
That's rough for sure. I mean, yeah, having a site banned. It's interesting though that, a lot of sites that you end up purchasing, there can be problems with it. And I think the due diligence part can be a bit rough. But yeah, it's one of the most important things I think you can do when you're buying a site. And, people spent years going over that and really studying that. It's a really tough area in buying sites.
And obviously, for the scope of what you're doing and our site, I hope you don't take years to do your diligence because you wouldn't be very successful. I mean, this is not exactly like you're buying an airline here. So,
yeah.
So
that depends.
Yeah.
It runs up there, though. If you're spending 7 figures on a site, I'm going to want to be damn sure that, I'm going to get something on the side.
Right. Maybe we'll take a real-world example here. I mean, what did you see in COPYCAT Crafts that told you be expanded or you can make more? What kind of due diligence did you do? And, talk about that example.
Yeah, so the biggest thing, being able to trust the buyer in that standpoint, it's really difficult when you're finding someone just through Google or, even through Flippa. Sometimes it's tough to tell. You can see the amount of transactions they've done and their feedback. But in this case, I knew the person that was selling it somewhat well. So the due diligence in the sense that trusting what this person was talking about being true wasn't as much of a concern for me. And the money was so low that with the traffic that she showed me after I was added to the analytics, I'd say you'd have to be at least making that much. So in any case, that site specifically, it has, if you go to the site even right now, you'll see there's a 728 by 90 banner ad at the top and then a 300 by 250 in the sidebar. And those were the only 2 banner ads on the entire site. And so the 728 by 90 above the header image, that one would get a terrible click-through rate because it's not even close to the content, and the sidebar was only marginally better. So I knew even just adding an inline ad unit, which what I have now is just a 468 by 60 in the right beneath the article title, and then above whatever the image is. Even adding that I knew would add additional money. And in fact, after seeing the data from over 7 months, or I guess it's about 9 months now, seeing that data, it has added more than double the amount of money just by adding in that ad unit. And then also too, knowing that I've used Vibrant Media, which is the in-text advertising company I've used. They're more for higher traffic sites. So I already had a relationship with an account manager there. Just sent him an email and said, hey, can I get this added to my account? Put on that, and then saying, actually, I pulled up my stats from that. That one's made me over $2,000 or $3,000 from just Vibrant Media.
Nice.
So that's already a huge chunk of the site purchase as well. And so, I mean, it's not like a ton. I mean, it's not rocket science, really. But the other thing, too, is that even beyond just ad placements, looking further, I'm in the process of hiring someone to write, an ebook, like a really high-quality ebook on how to get started with do-it-yourself crafting, like just different types of crafting types, anything that would be really beginner-oriented, because people that come to these types of sites, they're lurkers, and they might just be looking at something and be like, oh, that's really cool what they did there. I don't know how to do the same thing themselves.
Yeah, I like that. We talked about that a little bit before we got on the call, as far as like putting an ebook, attaching it to the COPYCAT craft site, and being able to give people more information, having an opportunity for them to buy in there as well, in addition to all the advertisement placements. I like that. Like, what do you consider the low-hanging fruit when it comes to expanding the site? I mean, obviously, changing the ad placements, we've talked about adding a new monetization strategy. Do you look at all that? Do you think about all that before you even get into the site, or do you look for a site? I mean, this one had traffic, so you figured there's some way I can make money out of it, right? I mean, that was the idea.
Yeah, I mean, that one was really clear. Over 200,000 page views a month, and the fact that the ad placements weren't the best. And the original site owner knew that. I mean, if she already was able to build the site up to that level, then she knew that it wouldn't, she could do more. But for whatever reason, sometimes people don't want to be more aggressive with their advertising or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so looking for those opportunities can help. And so, yeah, low-hanging fruit, definitely like where the ads are placed, the fact they do or do not have a newsletter, like an email opt-in type thing. Mm-hmm. Like for that site specifically, I tried to get a relationship with Joann's fabric store to try and then I was going to try and work with their affiliate manager to get some coupons. But anyway, so that's something else I'm trying to work as well, so I can put that into the email marketing strategy and have a better reason to build the list. So then if it's coupons that are exclusive to the site using, maybe our branding, and then an ebook that we can sell, then it's looking at, a lot more monetization methods than just display advertising through cost per click.
Right. We think that our sites are definitely, well, some of our sites at least, are very good suspect for being expanded into that type of affiliate play. So, if someone was able to buy our sites and do that, they could probably make a lot more money. But they would have to give a lot more time and attention to each individual site. So when you're looking at sites, how do you isolate? These are variables that you isolate, and you say, okay, I know, I'm going to be able to expand this. Do you test for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question, Joe. I mean, like, if you're looking to expand a site, right, and I just purchased it, I want to make more money with it, do you just put like 5 or 6 new approaches on it and kind of see what works, see if it makes more money or not? Or do you go individually, okay, ad placement first, yes or no? New, affiliate offer, yes or no? How do you do that?
It's really just like, I'll make a quick list of what I see wrong with the site, or in the sense that, what I can do quickly to make more money with it. And then also like a further long-term plan. I mean, I've wanted to do the premium ebook on the site for a long time, but it was a matter of trying to find someone to do it that kind of could see what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So the quickest things is just ad placements and different, trying those things out. I mean, I had a call today with ValueClick Media, or maybe I think it's just ValueClick, but anyways, I had a call with them, and I think I'm going to be getting a better eCPM rate using their banners as opposed to the ones that I'm using right now.
Nice.
So then it's just, that's the other type of angle too. And I think that helps too with the site with higher traffic. When, and that's kind of why I like just buying sites that already get quite a bit of traffic, because then it's just, rather than, okay, how am I going to build links to the site? How am I going to write this content? It's more like, okay, what can I do to take this site and build it into a much stronger earning site using a lot of different monetization methods, so that if I want to sell it later or even just hold it, I've got a really solid income coming from different angles,
Well, it was already built. They've already come. Now it's just making money from the people that are there.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that for sure. That's that fits in well with our sites. I think. I hope at least that people could refocus that traffic on some other type of method. But who do you use to do that, Chris? Do you use like a U.S. contractor? Or do you have a VA or?
So I always, for the sites that I'm buying, I'm pretty much always trying to make sure the content's outsourced so that I can just focus on like the marketing plan, which would be changing the ads, coming up with a strategy for how to make more money, etc. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I do. And really, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot this year, too, is that I'm making really good money for my business, but at what point do I need to just go get an office in downtown Seattle or something and see if I can get some other web entrepreneurs to saddle up?
Yeah. Well, that's something we're kind of doing with our internship, is starting to get Westerners out here that can help us grow our business. And it's been really interesting. You probably know this about us, but we're big process dorks, right? Like, we really like to put like a set process that works in place. It seems a bit more difficult to do with expanding sites because it's kind of, each site's unique. Like, you may have a site with high traffic and low monetization, or it's well monetized but could use additional monetization methods. Do you think you can set up a process for this that is step A, step B, step C, or is it just custom?
I think the actual finding the site, I mean, there's a process to what to look for that you can kind of systematize. I'm not even sure if that's a word. Maybe it is, but yeah, I think that part can be processed out, looking at the site and then seeing what can be done, and then kind of having a checkbox of all the things that can be done to make us have a higher traffic site and make more money, going through those and then having, different people working on it. So I think knowing what I know about how you guys build your sites, I think that it's possible to, kind of build them out in that way. It's just a matter of, I think it's really just a matter of finding good enough sites to buy.
I'm interested, though, in the budget that you spend on expanding sites. Do you have a formula for that based on the price that you bought it for, or do you have an idea in mind of how much it's going to cost? How do you do that?
No, I don't really do a huge budget beyond just kind of knowing what these types of things might cost. Like, for example, the ebook, I'm still working with the writer. I haven't done it yet now but I'm curious to see, roughly what someone might charge to write, a premium ebook. So if I buy these sites that are kind of around how to do something, then I can take that and, pay someone else to write an ebook and know, okay, I've got $1,000 expense for the ebook, and based on the traffic and the size of the email list, I should be able to make this many sales, etc. So I don't have like a really good budgeting process for how I expand it out, but beyond the purchase price, I always kind of know that I'm going to be putting some more money into the site, whether it's ongoing content creation or things like that. But I've never really just sat down and thought, okay, what am I going to budget for, Again,
it's one of those things that's kind of custom, too. So I don't think you can say, I'm going to spend $5,000 on the site and I'll allow another 20% of the purchase price to expand it. It's going to depend on where you think you can get value. And some sites may take 50% more, some sites 10% more.
Yeah, and that's why it's kind of fun, too. I mean, when I was saying before, part of the reason why I expanded out into buying sites is cool because I had some of the capital to do it, but also just because it's kind of fun. I mean, rather than starting from scratch, you've got something you can already take and really, build up. So.
Because how long does it, to get an idea on like how you make a determination on whether the site's working or not, how long does it take for you to start seeing a return on the time or money you invested on expanding the site out?
In the first 3 months, I can generally improve the income and then and then also look to see what I'm doing with the traffic. The traffic component, it was always something that if it relies on me to come up with like a marketing plan and like a really good strategy for trying to drive traffic in greater numbers, then the traffic component will just kind of be pushed to the side a little bit while I'm too busy answering emails or doing other things.
Yeah.
Even as I'm saying these, answering some of these questions, I'm really thinking that this might be the office year, time to get out and maybe start hiring some. So if you're in Seattle and you're listening to this, shoot me an email.
Chris Guthrie's hiring locally.
I find the determination factor very interesting because, that's really what it's going to come down to. I mean, not every site you buy is going to be this overwhelming success. So, is there a stat that you look at for potential success? I mean, after you've bought the site and you've run it through your process or you've done everything that's customized to it and you've kind of let it go, is there something that you say, okay, this site is worth working on because it has good traffic, but the CTR or the CPC is bad. But this site, I've taken it as far as it can go. Now I don't want to work on it anymore. I'm just going to leave it for residual income or I'm going to flip it. How do you determine that?
Well, so for me right now, I'm basically just trying to build my monthly website income up into higher and higher levels. So I'm not really looking to sell any of my sites at this point. I mean, I guess everything's for sale for the right price, but like the crafting site, I mean, I would assume that I could sell it into the 5 figures. And knowing that I bought for $4,000, that's a nice $6,000 profit. But, I mean, it's still not enough to make it worth doing. So I think maybe the best way to say it is that if I can't sell it for at least, 50 grand or more, or maybe even 100 grand, then I don't even know if I'll bother selling, because then it's, you're looking at a lower income multiple than you can get at selling something much higher. So I think that's really the only thing, is looking at how much you can sell for, and then, is it worth all the time it took for you to find a site worth buying, and then do all the things that you did to it to just turn around and sell it.
How do you know if you're going to keep working on the site? Like, how do you know when you say, okay, this is as far as I've taken this site, I can't do anything else more, I might as well just buy another site and work on that site instead of expanding this anymore?
I don't think I really know. I think it's more of just, once I write my list of what I want to do to the site, so whether it's improving the advertising, hiring more content writers, or whatever it is, and then beyond doing that, after I finished it, it's like, okay, well, just keep letting it run, see if the traffic kind of grows naturally as a result of what I did, and if not, okay, what else can I do to really improve it?
The reason Joe's asking this is because this is something that we're looking at over the next couple of weeks and months ourselves. Like, we have a set process for creating the sites, but some of those, with a little more love and attention, we think could make a good amount of money. So we're going to have to determine in that process of kind of like a cleanup crew going through our sites and making more money, when do they call it quits? When is the site done? So we're going to be running through that process here soon. So it's that's one of the reasons we're wondering. But maybe just one of those things you got to get in and do and figure out, huh?
Yeah, it's really individual, and I guess maybe that's just because, and again, even kind of going back to that point where I probably am at the point where I need to start working with more people, but I just kind of have the list of what I want to do, work on doing it, and then I just don't think I really thought about exactly coming out with a process for every site that I buy, because it's different each time, so it's kind of tough to
do that. Yeah, that's why we're thinking we're going to have like a custom team go back behind and make individual determinations on which sites to expand and which ones not to. We had a site that we bought. It was twitart.com. We bought this a couple of years ago for like $5,000, and it was a good earner, right? It was doing well for us. We didn't really expand it. We just kind of sat on it and collected the revenue. Ultimately, it was profitable. It made us money. It was a good buy. But we started to let it die, and we consider that kind of one of our failures. We think we should have either expanded it or sold it and not hung on to it any longer. What do you do with a site that you've bought that just didn't work out? It was just a dud, and not a scam or anything, but just kind of a dud. It's dying on the vine. What do you do with that?
So that's the worst part, too, is if you have a site like that and it's already starting to die, then it's already too late to really sell it, at least to sell it for enough to make it worth selling.
Yeah.
So, it's again one of those really tough things, because, if you're looking at the income, it's stagnating or it's starting to fall, then you might think, okay, maybe I can sell, but then you've also got to factor in seasonality, because, this winter months you're going to be seeing a lot higher earnings. But yeah, so with that angle, there are so many people that I see selling sites either because they've contacted me through like the URL where I have a site where I tell people that want to sell their sites to me, and then they talk about the potential, or it used to make this, but now it makes this, and it's like, okay, well, you're not selling me based on what it was making before. All I care about is what it was making in the past 12 months.
What is that site? You have to get rid of your website.com?
Yeah, and actually too, I've had a few people that were, a few decent sites come through there, but most of them are people that have a site that's making no money and they want $20,000, or even that I say that,
it's their baby.
And after you post, when you post this podcast, I'll probably get plenty of people with a site making $100 a month that want $20,000 for it.
Sweet Lord, I'm absolutely certain of that. Yeah.
Now that we're talking about all this, you mentioned that a lot of things are kind of custom, a lot of things you kind of go by feel. I wonder, Chris, how easy is it to model your process? How easy is it for someone else to get into this and, understand what you're doing? So
I think it's more difficult than starting sites from scratch, in the sense that when you're starting a site from scratch, it's very, very systematic. It's, you do your niche research, buy your domain name, write your content, build your links, wait for Google to hopefully give you some traffic. That's pretty clear. But here, you're looking at trying to contact people that might tell you to F off when they contact you. I've had some guys say that before.
Yeah, I bet.
Or they'll say, sure, it's for sale, it's $1 million. Okay. And so you're dealing with a lot of that going on. So it is more difficult to build out a system for it, I think.
Chris, do you think it's worth your time? I mean, we always look for processes that we can scale, right, that don't require a huge investment of our time. Because this is so custom, like, have you thought about this? Like, would your time be better focused on building out your Amazon sites and building a team to do that for you? Because this obviously requires a fair amount of your time. Why this direction, do you think?
Well, I think it really depends, too, on the price range you're going for. Like, the first site I bought was a $500 site. It wasn't making any money from anything. It had some traffic, some links, and the site was already ranking for some terms in Google. So I just kind of said, hey, you want me to sell this? Will you sell this to me? And then I turned around, added Amazon to it, et cetera, and it's since made me about $7,000. But now I'm like trying to, and this is the rule I've set for this year, is to buy sites only for $10,000 or more, because then it is, to kind of answer that question.
Yeah.
It's a lot more worth my time when I'm buying a site for $10,000 or more than it is when I'm looking at, a little bit lower.
Yeah, you got to think about your per hour. So you buy a site for, let's say, $700, ends up being worth $7,000. But if you put in a bunch of hours, your per hour is lower. If you buy a site for $10,000, turn that into $80,000 for the same effort, right? You're like, okay, I made more money there, right? I get that.
Yeah, and even if someone's listening, they can know you don't have to go at that level, because I don't know. Like you said, I mean, if once you get to a certain point, it has to be worth enough money to you to really bother doing it.
Right, and for us, we're always playing that game. Is it better for us to expand our sites? Is it better for us to just sit around and crank up the machine and produce as many sites as we can? So if you were the AdSense flippers, put yourself in our shoes for a second. If you were us, do you think it's better to expand our sites before selling them to buyers, or just crank up the machine and pump out as many sites as we can and leave that upside to our buyers when they get them?
I think that it's worth testing out, trying to take, having your team or hiring some people that focus specifically on taking the sites to the next level, and then seeing just what that can do to the total sale value you can get when you sell your sites. So that's something you'll have to do more testing, but because you have the other aspect, building out these niche sites down so well, it's almost might make more sense to just crank up the machine. There's so many people that want to make money online, and because, done for you, and that's normally like a negative connotation. Well, when you're buying a site, it is kind of done for you. So, I mean, that's where you guys have like a pretty good market that you could sell to. So if you can crank out more of those types of sites, that might make more sense. But I definitely would say at least it's worth looking into having some of your people build out the sites just to see what you can do, trying to take the sites to the next level.
Well, that's where we're at now, Chris. Both, basically. We need to scale out the sites and figure out a way to get them earning more. We've got our intern here. That's his next project. He's right now he's documenting the process of everything that we do, and he's really got that down. So now we can start taking a look at which sites have the best potential for success and really trying to expand those and see what we can do there to make more money. So anyway, Chris, people want to get a hold of you. I'm sure they're going to be interested, especially after this interview. Where can they get in contact with you? Where can they go?
Yeah, best place is just my blog. It's makemoneyontheinternet.com. It was my attempt at a keyword domain name before Google AdWords up there, their keyword tool, to show that the keyword wasn't getting as much traffic as I initially thought. But that's the blog that I'm at, and then I have an email address that I do my best to answer every day, at least for the time being, Chris@makemoneyontheinternet.com.
Cool, man. Well, it's been really helpful, really eye-opening for us because, us looking to expand our sites, it's really important for us to see how we can make more money. And obviously our listeners are buying sites, they're building their own sites. So if they can figure out a way to make more money out of their sites, that would be fantastic. So having an expert on like you that has done this a few times, been around the block, is really useful, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being on the AdSense Flippers podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we hope to be on your show soon.
All right, buddy.
I don't know, Joe. I thought that was a really good interview, buddy. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like talking to Chris. I think it's very interesting hearing about buying sites and expanding them, taking them up the next notch in revenue. And these are not only AdSense sites he's talking about. He's talking about larger sites, smaller sites, all kinds of sites. So
I think that's cool. I mean, one of the best ways to expand an AdSense site is to add a better monetization method, right? So as we look to expand our niche sites over the next couple of months, we're going to be really testing through that. That's the intern's next role and his next job. It'll be really interesting to see if we can find some other affiliate offer or some other stuff we can add on that will help make that site make more money in the long term as we continue to turn them into authority sites. You know what I mean?
especially if we can make a process out of it.
Yeah, buddy. Now that's the thing, right? Let's scale the hell out of it.
Right.
All right, well, let's get right into our ninja marketing tips, tricks, and our plans for the future.
The AdSense Flippers podcast continues.
So Joe, I got the first ninja marketing tip, man, and this is optimized press versus premise. If you're looking for a sales page, you're looking for something to really grab someone's attention and get some email addresses, we were kind of doing this battle between, optimized press or premise. We're working on a charity project. Now I know this sounds funny, why do you need a sales page for a charity project? But we're gonna see if we can put some of our internet marketing skills to good use, and particularly good use, and see if we can help out some people that really need it. Anyway, deciding between the two, I found out that optimized press is great. It comes highly recommended. It's a WordPress theme though. It's a full-on theme, where premise gives you a lot of the same options, and it's a plugin instead of a theme. So, for us, we want to be able to use like a Woo Themes theme or something. Using a plugin instead is fantastic.
Yeah, I think a plugin is always going to be a little bit better than using a theme if possible for something this specific. Unless you want to change the entire look and feel of your site, or your site was just a one-page long sales page, then that's a different story. So the next tip here when talking about improving sites is a great little product I like to use, service I like to use, called optimizely.com. And that allows you to make changes, basic changes to sites without having to edit your code or change your theme or anything like that. You can move buttons around, you can change colors, you can do all kinds of interesting things. It's called optimizely.com.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes, but that's something that's really good for me, right? I'm not a terribly technical guy. I don't want to have to be moving all that stuff around. If I can do that really easy, like, plug and play, pull, drag and drop kind of stuff, that's really helpful.
Yeah, so you don't have to be very technical. You will have to have control of your site, obviously, in order to make the changes and test that, but it allows you to do A/B variant testing, very scientific. So the third tip I have here is a kind of a fun one, Justin. I'm not a big fan of the electronica music, the dance party music thing, but Dan and Ian and a couple of other people out there got me into this BOOTIE mashup.
Yeah, man, I don't know, buddy. BOOTIE mashup. Give it to me. What's it all about?
Okay, so BOOTIEmashup.com, they take old songs and new songs and kind of run them together in a dance format, and it's pretty cool. I mean, some of it doesn't work. Some of it you're like, next, but it's free. It's nice to have the mix on in the background when you're just trying to pump out some work, and I highly suggest you check it out, because if you're like me, choosing your music sometimes gets a little old, and if you've been listening to the same old stale playlists over and over again, this is a great way to freshen it up.
We always want to freshen it up, don't we? Just teasing you, buddy. That's cool. I don't know. I should really check it out. I think I saw it in Dynamite Circle. I was looking at it and going, wow, it's kind of interesting. The mashup thing, though, sounds a little too much like Glee, and my girlfriend beats the hell out of that show, makes me watch it with her. So I don't know. I think I'm done with the mashups, but I'll take a look, man. I'll take a look. Well, that is it for episode 13 of the AdSense Flippers podcast. Really excited to have you with us. Thanks for sticking with it. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at AdSense Flippers. We're on there. Don't be shy. Come say hi, and we'll give you a tweet.
Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to the AdSense Flippers podcast with Justin and Joe. Be sure to hit up AdSenseFlippers.com for more. That's AdSenseFlippers.com. Thanks for listening.